Combat sports fans, it's time for Strong Style. Impact Media's weekly dive off the top rope into the world of professional wrestling and mixed martial arts. I'm your host, Jeremy the Impact York. You guys can't see it. Camera being weird today. Rocking the PFL gear. They will be looking to get back in the swing of it very, very soon. Things we're going to talk about today. TNA Victory Road just happened. I'll tell you the aftermath of those particular matches. NXT gearing up for a big show coming. Well, yeah, for a big show coming up. AEW has their big matches was tonight, and it's like Wednesday and Saturday, I believe. Today's Wednesday. But they're gearing up for basically their Clash of Champions, which is going to be on TV, which is cool. They're having kind of a pay-per-view on TV. That way we don't have to pay for it. Um, Kind of nice after going almost back to back. Um, WWE gearing up for Bad Blood. That's going to be here in Atlanta. We are still looking into some options of if we're going to be there or not. We're wanting to. Waiting to hear some stuff back. That's could be exciting news. Could be absolutely nothing. We will see what it actually ends up being. And of course, Wild Women of Wrestling had some pretty good matches over the weekend as well, plus a Deep South Wrestling update. We just had, I think I have the right writing pad. I think it's on the other side there, but they just had a monster event at New Realm Brewery. We'll talk a little about that. But first, let's talk some UFC. But before we talk some UFC, I want to throw a few things out real quickly. If you want to follow the show, go to our YouTube channel, impact underscore media underscore. We have great content there. We have shows about UGA, about tech, about Kennesaw University. We also have, of course, this show about pro wrestling MMA called Strong Style. If you just want to see the Strong Styles, you can just watch those. We also have our United and Falcons show. We have Board Check that'll be launching soon. That has or relaunching soon as the hockey season picks up. Just all kinds of great content. And of course, if you just want to watch the ones about our AEW pay-per-view preview and review, and of course WWE pay-per-view review and previews. Those are up there as well. Fabulous Wrestling Talk as welcome on the co-host for those. Go check all those out. Impact underscore media underscore. And also shout outs and heavy prayers to anybody in the wake of this storm coming out of the Gulf. Lots of friends, family, and fans of this show down in the Gulf area. And also, looks like we're not far from the middle of the path once it gets up into the Atlanta area. So, prayers and everybody be careful out there. And if there's somebody that needs some help, help them. Don't ask why. Don't get somebody else to do it. If somebody needs some help, help them. You should already be doing that, but especially in a time like this, because this could be a really, really big storm. One of the biggest ones they hit in a while. And we just want everybody to stay safe. Now, let's talk a little UFC. Now, they've been doing some Dana White Contender Series stuff, which is fine. It's good stuff. We don't really report on those. Um, but they have a UFC fight night coming up from Paris, as we said last time, from Paris, France, where they're featuring a ton of French fighters. Is there at least one per almost? One, two, three. No, yeah, three, four, five of the 14 fights do not feature someone from France. The other nine do. That is just crazy. Let's talk a little about it. It is UFC Fight Night Moicano versus Saint Denis. And boy, that's you want to see a submission fest? That's what those two are going to do. Renato Moicano from Brazil brings his 19-5-1 record. He's a plus 235 dog. It's not a bad number. You want to throw some ducats down on that. We're not necessarily a betting podcast, but I will throw some odds out there occasionally, especially on UFC, PFL, things like that. I'd have considered putting a little bit of money on Hanato because he has quite a few submission victories of his 19, and so does Benoit. Apologies for that. Benoit Saint Denis, a minus 290 favorite, brings his 13-2-0 record into the fight. It's the lightweight main event. This is the winner of this has got to be considered a top contender if they're not already. I don't have their rankings in front of me, but the winner of this is probably going to win by submission. Two-thirds of these guys' victories have came by submission, and I very much think that is going to happen. You got to think Saint Denis is the big favorite, not just because of the betting line, but he's really riding some momentum. But like I said, at plus 235, it might be worth throwing down a unit or two in betting terms, a unit or two for Renato Morcano. And I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm pretty sure it's Hanato. Could be Renato. I think Hanato. But Moicano, my underdog pick there, Moicano. I think Saint Denis is going to win. I'm just going to be a little contrarian and say Moicano figures out some way. Some way. Don't know. More than likely, Benoit's going to make me look bad. But I'm okay with that because that means it's going to be a great fight. The co-main event, Nasruddin Imavov is a minus 210 favorite with his 14-4 record in the middleweight division, taking on 24-5-0 Brendan Allen, who is a plus 175. Kind of weird to see Brendan Allen as an underdog. I can see where he'd be favored in almost every fight against Imavov. That's not one of them. Um, they got this one pretty even as far as the way the odds are looking and everything. I do think Nasruddin Imavov is going to find a way to get the victory here, and it's not because Brandon Allen is bad, because he is by far the opposite of that. He is quite the fighter. Um, I don't know. Imavov, 10 of his 14 victories have come by decision with six knockouts and four submissions. He has also been submitted once, and that means he is 4-3 when he doesn't get a decision. I mean, 4-3 when he doesn't decide the fight. If he lets judges do it. So that's going to tell me Imavov is going to want to end this, because if this goes to judges, he's a coin flip. He's definitely a coin flip. And with Brendan Allen, of his 24 victories, 19 of the 24, all but five, are uh 14 are submission, five are by TKO. Here's the crazy thing. Of his five losses, two are knockouts and one are submission. So three of his losses and five. So he is 5-3 when this thing goes to decision. There we go. So they're both on the plus side of decisions, but neither one of them's going to want to let this go there. This one's going to end before I don't know if it's 3 rounds or five. I tell you right now, Saint Denis and Moicano are going to probably go 3 to 4 rounds. I don't think it sees five. Imavov Allen is not going to see the end of either round three or round five, whatever they have it at. I think it's probably three being the co-main. I'd be willing to bet mid third is when you see some action. I'm gonna go Imavov on that one. I wonder if it's William Gomez because he's from France. So William is Guillaume, but it's not spelled that way on here. So I'm gonna go with William Gomez, who's a plus 245 dog against Joe Anderson. Brito, who is a minus 310 favorite. That means Brito is a big favorite as opposed to this, about almost a 2-1, 3-1, the way you look at it. By the way, this whole thing is on ESPN Plus. So ESPN Plus. Did we see what time? When is that actually gonna kick off? The main card is at 3 p.m. The prelims are at 12. We might get a chance to catch some of this fight. some of these fights because Saturday night we'll be at the Kennesaw football game, weather permitting. Looks like everything's going to clear out as long as there's not too bad of damage. Everything's going to clear out around here like mid to late Friday. Saturday is actually going to be cloudy, and then we start to see the sun after that. So continue to pray for us. Um, but I'll be honest, Burrito, as good as he is at 17-3-1, and Gomez has a 13-2-0 record. I think Gomez is going to win this. I don't know how. I don't know. I'm not going to get deep enough into it. I don't know enough to get deep into it. I can do with the other two fights, but I got a feeling that Gomez is going to figure this one out. I definitely think that's what's going to happen there. Okay. As our notes just went flying there. There we go. Matchup number 4, Kevin Jusay is going to take on Brian Battle. 10-2 versus 11-2. I know a lot about Brian Battle. I've seen him fight. I've seen him win a lot, not just because he's 11-2, but it seems like a lot of his fights are on ESPN. So I have been able to see a bunch of those over the years. Don't know a lot about Kevin Jusay. I do know that at plus 140 to Brian Battle's minus 170, I got that one pretty close. Um, I think Jusay is going to take the home field advantage. I think he's going to find a way to pull off this victory, probably in a decision. I'm going to go decision on that one. And finally, what should open up the main card is Morgan, is it Charrier? We'll go Charrier versus Gabriel Miranda. Charrier is a minus 850 favorite. That's like 8-1. That's like 8-1. He's an 8-1 favorite. It means you'd have to put down $8 to win $1. That's what 8-1 means. And Gabriel Miranda is a plus 500 dog. That means if you put $1 down, you will win 5 times your money if it cashes. Miranda has a chance in this one. It's not, you always have a chance. But Morgan Charrier is more than likely going to pull off the victory for this one. Other notable names on this card: Matt Frivola, uh, Ian Kudalaba, um, Ludwig Klein, Elaine Perez. There was another one. Where is it? Uh, Balaji Oki versus Chris Duncan to kick off the card might be a sleeper. That might be a fun one. Like sleeper good. Like you didn't think this was gonna be a hammer of a fight, but these two lightweights might put on a show. But that, of course, as I said, is this Saturday. Yep, Saturday. Make sure at the Accor Arena in Paris, France. 3 p.m. main card, 12 p.m. That's noon. Those are all Eastern times, by the way. 12 p.m. noon for the prelims. All right. So let's get into some wrestling action. There are lots of other stuff going on, but right now I want to start with TNA. TNA, of course, from San Antonio, Texas, last Friday. They love these Fridays. I think they don't like going head to head with WWE, so they stay away from Saturday, Sunday when they can. Friday's not a bad day. Friday's not a bad day. No, Friday's not a bad day. There's been some crossovers. We've seen Joe Hendry go from TNA to NXT, and we've seen some of the NXT people cross over as well. I expect to see them here. On the pre-show, Kushida over Leon Slater. Okay. Alexander Hammerstone and Jake Something defeated Eric Young and Steve Macklin. Why is this not on the main card? That's my argument there. All 4 of these guys deserve to be on the main card. Hammerstone could be a future champ. Steve Macklin should be the champ, and that's the hill I choose to fight on. Steve Macklin should be the champ right now. It's nothing personal to Nick Nemeth or even Moose. They do fantastic, but I would have Macklin and Hammerstone battling for the belt right now. That's TNA, you hear that? If you put me on the writing staff, that's what I'm working towards. And this is September. By November, I have them in a main event. That's how fast I would work it. In fact, put me on the writing staff. I will work a lot cheaper than probably most people you have on there. And if things aren't better in a month or so, if things don't improve, get rid of me. That's fine. But give me a shout. I think it seems like a pretty solid offer. I said, I work a lot cheaper than you think. But that should have been on the main show. Only reason this was on the main show is because the Hardys were involved. Not sure what that is. Uh, but the Hardys defeated AJ Francis and KC Navarro. The Rich Swan is no longer in that group. KC Navarro does a good job, but it's just the first class is uh kind of there. Of course, the Hardys defeated them. Mike Bailey just snatched his X Division belt back. I was a little miffed by this. I thought Zachary Wentz was a solid champion. See, I see Zach Wentz as an Alex Shelley. In a weird way, I guess. I guess Trey Miguel is kind of a Chris Sabin. They're kind of the Motor City Machine Guns in a way. They're kind of an updated 2.0 version. Um, Pretty similar to the way they work. Splitting Wesley from them is just it needed to happen. They need to be a two piece, not three. But I mean, just handed the belt back over to Mike Bailey. The only reason he lost it, I think, is because he kind of went more into the main event style for a second, and then they just gave the X Division title back. Now, Mike Bailey's really good. Why can't Zach keep it for a little longer? The only reason you gave it to Zach was so when he faced Wesley in NXT, it looked legit. It was already going to be legit, but you decided to add something to it just so you could showcase one of your champions on somebody else's TV show. Yeah, called you out for that one. I guess that might hurt my chance to be on the writing staff, huh? Or might help him. But this is a good match. It was a really good match. I would like to see more of a push from Zach Wentz if Trey Miguel's hurt, whether we see him in NXT or whether TNA just decides to push him as a good singles. He's a solid singles. The Rascals were always they were three more than solid singles competitors. So when you put them as a two or a three piece, they're just that much better. Same thing with the Machine Guns. The same way. They're both really good by themselves, but when you put them together, they're off the charts. But congrats, Mike Bailey. You get your X Division championship back, and Zach, at least you're in a title match. Matt Cardona and Steph DeLander versus PCO and Rhino, which shouldn't have happened to start with, gets called off because Steph DeLander needs neck surgery. Yeah, she's not going to be done, or she says she's not done. But I don't know. Cardona's another one. Like I don't get this storyline. Like, are you using Cardona to put over PCO? Are you using PCO to put over Cardona? Is Steph DeLander a part of this or just kind of there? Like, are you using them to put over her? Because why are we doing this mixed gender stuff again? It doesn't usually go very well. And hey, Rhino got to be on pay-per-view. Good for Rhino. Rhino, solid dude. Solid dude. Met him many years ago. Could not have been nicer. But so that kind of weirded that whole thing. Knockouts Tag Team Championship, of course, Masha Slamovich and um, Alicia Edwards are the tag champs, but she is not medically cleared to wrestle, so they let Tasha Steele step in for her. And if they face Jody Threat and Danny Luna of Spitfire, and if Spitfire won, they got the belts. If they lost, they had to disband. I said before, if they disband, it's the dumbest thing ever because they're actually the most established team in the women's division. There's not really any other ones besides you had Masha and Alicia, who are the champs. I guess you could say Rosemary and Wendy Chu if you want to mix and match that way, because I don't know where Rosemary's other partner is, and it's just a mess. It's just there needs to be more clarity. That's what I'm saying, TNA. More clarity from you guys. All right, more clarity. If you clear things up more, I think it would go a lot better. But of course, Spitfire wins this, and after the fact, Alicia and Steele's turn on Slamovich, which will turn Slamovich back good. She's going to hang out more with Jordan Grace, I would imagine. Maybe that's a tag team. and it looks like Tasha Steeles and Alicia Edwards are going to kind of do more of their thing, which makes sense because Masha Slamovich doesn't need to be with the big group. That it just she wasn't really a fit. She was above it majority of the time, and then most times she was out to the side of it. But good for Jody Threat and Danny Luna. I'm a big fan of Spitfire, especially Danny Luna. I think she really the work she does inside of a ring goes unnoticed sometimes, and it shouldn't. She's one of the better workers right now in TNA. Joe Henry, Josh Alexander was dynamite. Not trying to use an AEW word there. They was dynamite. Alexander punished Henry quite a bit, and then Henry was able to do the C4 driver that Alexander does, and then use a ankle lock, to which the referee got knocked. And when the referee got knocked, um, low blow attempt and successful by Josh Alexander, only for Hendry to pull out a protective device that protected him from being injured from said thing. To which he did what the standing ovation, his move, and then uh, put the ankle lock back on. Referee saw it this time. Josh Alexander taps to his own move. Joe Hendry could be a big star if they keep pushing him the way they are. Win over Alexander is definitely gonna do that. Then we get to the World Tag Team Championships where Ace Austin and Chris Bay dropped the titles to Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards. So once again, we just hand the titles back to somebody else. ABC went for a solid run, by the way. I just feel like at some point they're going to split these two up because they've done about everything as a team you can do. And we all know that when the TNA writing staff runs out of things for you to do, they just do the same thing again. So unfortunately, ABC, I just see you guys facing half a dozen times. Is what it is. But good for Myers and Edwards. They get another tag team championship, and the beat goes on. Knockouts championship. Jordan Grace defeated Wendy Chu. She retains the title. This was really good for everybody who thought Wendy Chu may not be where she can hang with a Jordan Grace. She can. She can for sure. Wendy Chu has gotten title shots in both companies here recently. And I think it's only a matter of time that by the third time she comes up for a title match, she might be the one to take it. A lot of people think maybe Julia or Stephanie Vacker may be the ones to take it from Roxanne Perez. What if it's a fatal four-way and it's Wendy Chu? It's very possible. Very possible. But uh, the Sleepy Psycho, I like this nickname, the Sleepy Psycho. Is that a t-shirt? I might have to buy that t-shirt. There's a list of shirts that I want to get. I need to work on my own shirts. So we will see what happens first. But fun. Um, really good match. In the end, Grace was able to retain her title. And let's see, Rosemary attacked Jordan Grace at the end. And then sleeper hold on by Wendy Chu puts Jordan Grace out, so they are not necessarily done. More than likely, Rosemary is going to face Jordan Grace pretty soon, but looks like Wendy Chu and Rosemary are kind of pairing up, and it's interesting. I like the Tatum Paxley Wendy Chu better, but Rosemary's always been one of the cornerstones of TNA. So I didn't say the women's division, of course, the women's division, but Rosemary has been a solid pillar over the years of TNA to where you can count on her for anything. Um, and then that led us to the World Championship. Nick Nemeth and Moose. Of course, all of the people come out. All of Moose's little henchmen and everything. Mike Santana come out to help. Um, the system, that's what it is. I couldn't remember their name. The system eventually get thrown out, and Mike Santana as well. Uh, Now, of course, Myers and Eddie Edwards refused to leave. They said, "You can't make us." And then one John Bradshaw Layfield came down through the crowd, and a couple clothesline from Hell's later, it didn't matter. It didn't matter where they were because they were out. And it continued. Nick Nemeth was able to rally for the super kick in the danger zone for the win. Really good match. Match of the night, either Jordan Grace, Wendy Chu, or I'm not a big Alexander guy, but or Joe Hendry, Josh Alexander. One of those two by far was, and I'll be honest, had Mike Bailey not retained or not won the X Division belt back, I would have probably gave it to Winston Bailey. But that outcome to me just put I don't know, put a sour note. I'll say it, put a sour note in like we will see where all the aftermath of this goes. What does JBL have to do with this? He showed up in random places recently, not just TNA, and this is the first time he was physical with anybody. Maybe we're gonna get a cross brand kind of Bullet Club like thing where across a couple different brands you see a faction and they kind of go back and forth. It's not a bad idea. JBL kind of spearheading it out, kind of Ghost Rider here, just kind of steps in and the Hall of Justice. Um, Overall, so Victory Road was pretty good. I can't say a lot bad about Victory Road. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I'll give them that. Um, all the talent performed where they should. Pretty solid matches. Just felt like some of them should have been different parts of the card. But that's one man's opinion. Let's move on. Let's go to NXT. How are we doing on time? Okay. Let's go to NXT. Um, Things that I like about NXT. Tons. There are tons. But as far as feuds and programs they have, putting Lyra Valkyria and Tatum Paxley back as a duo and a tandem is fun. I don't know if Lyra is going to be back in NXT for just a little bit, or if she's going to, because she was already back on SmackDown, I believe, the other night. Um, because if so, then I want to see Tatum up there a little bit. Maybe Lyra needs an extra partner one day, and Tatum comes up, and we see what can happen. But they went against Rosemary and Wendy Chu because, of course, Tatum still has the thing about being miffed by Wendy. So it's that's the crazy thing is Wendy Chu and Rosemary have like three storylines going at once. Um, Tatum versus Wendy should be the next feud. And if Lyra and Rosemary want to get involved in it, that's fine. Um, we got to see Tony D'Angelo versus Hammerstone. Talk about two guys who know how to throw their opponents all over the place. This ended up being a count out from by D'Angelo. Hammerstone won. It was really weird. And then somebody pointed out the parallel. Tony D'Angelo and did I write it down? I did not. And the female that's in his group between the D'Angelo family, especially him and her. It was like Rocky 3 or something like that. Somebody pointed out it was one of the Rocky movies. They completely went word for word in promos parodying like Rocky 3 or Rocky 2. I can't remember which one they said it was. I think it's Rocky 3. That made it funnier to me. That made it absolutely hilarious. If Stallone ever figures it out, then you probably try to sue him, but good luck. It was funny. But Hammerstone in NXT, I like it. Hendry in NXT, I like it. Now they are TNA talents, and I'm not saying take them out of TNA. Those are good crossovers because those guys put cabooses in seats, and they're good. Um, that wasn't any good. There's something between CM Punk and Roxanne Perez. And no, not like a sexual tension. Let's not go there. That's not that at all. There's, for one, a mutual admiration. CM Punk's a big Roxanne fan. Roxanne's a big CM Punk fan. You could tell. But I would almost say that at some point, Roxanne Perez, one of her future opponents, is going to be AJ Mendez, AJ Brooks, Mrs. CM Punk. I think maybe after Roxanne drops the title to Julia or Wendy Chu, as I said, or Stephanie Vacker, Roxanne's going to go into a spiral a little bit. Maybe she's going to blame CM Punk. I think she can go kind of crazy and do that. And at some point, CM Punk's wife may be in attendance at like an NXT show, and I think they're going to get into it. Think think AJ and Roxanne are going to get into it. We're going to get a fun feud. I don't think AJ will come back full time, but I think she misses it. But I'm not going to speak for her because we've never met. But Roxanne and Julia got in a verbal war started by CM Punk. It was like I said, the women's division NXT is one of the strongest things they have going. Uh, Ethan Page as the champ is one of my favorite things as well. I like Sean Spears as a mentor slash disruptor because that is exactly what he is. Not to be biased because I will probably be chatting with him in a couple weeks, but Lexus King and his progression, I'm all behind that kid. All behind that kid. Was a giant fan of his dad and all the stuff his dad did, and what he's doing now when there's somebody behind him actually working with him and giving him the freedom and the canvas to paint this picture. This is why you're seeing what you're seeing. Lexus can go. Um, Beyond that, as deep as the women's division is, there's just not a lot of stories going, just a lot of good solid matches. And that's something to go for. Um Things I like on Raw. CM Punk McIntyre. The way this is playing out and the way that they don't have to wrestle, but yet they seem to fight and tangle almost every week, or just CM Punk this week. I wasn't a big fan of his promo. I think there was a couple times that he maybe got his points a little flipped around, but it still makes sense. It was his way of saying if this is his swan song, which is it is not, this is his swan song. Oh, he's putting it all out there. Hell in a Cell with McIntyre. And he said, McIntyre, if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to win this match. CM Punk says he's willing to risk it all. And that, no, it's not if he loses, he retires. It's not that. He's not stupid. Um, but CM Punk McIntyre, Pete Dunne, Sheamus. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Big Sheamus fan, big Pete Dunne fan. But these two tangling, basically, I think Sheamus is trying to help push Pete Dunne into a higher role because Pete is really good, but they have just failed to give him a lot of really good things to do. I mean, heck, they called him Butch for over a year. Even I'm glad he's in the anti-Butch mode where he's like, don't call me that. For one, you can do that anywhere down the road. You can have anybody who just thinks it'd be funny to walk by and go, "Oh, look, there's Pete. I mean Butch," and then Butch can just deck him. I think it'd be great. There's so many. I could see Pretty Deadly doing something like that, calling him Butch and it just not going well. Um, all about that though. Um, Good to see Natalia get a win and to be back on TV, but it didn't mean much except for a victory for her. So good for her. No, I did not see Raw for this week yet. I'm gonna watch it as soon as we're done here. However, I do know of a particular event that involved Jay Uso, and we will talk about it next week. But the evolution of Jay Uso and the reason why he has not been pulled back into the bloodline has nothing to do with Jimmy, who apparently could use your prayers. I don't know the whole story. Not my business. Just know that between Jay and between Rikishi, who's their dad, He said he needs your thoughts and prayers. So definitely do that. But the evolution of Jey Uso and his program with Braun Breaker, another person I hope to see maybe this weekend. Um, I think it's a fun storyline. And I think you're going to like where it went Monday. If you didn't see it yet, I implore you to go watch. And other than that, what else was there? Um, all right, so Dom and Priest need to have their program done very soon because we need to see Finn Balor and Priest at least for a couple matches and get that hashed out so that both of them can do something different. Because now they're taking some steam away from from Dom, by putting him as the setup boss, so to say, for the final boss, which is Finn Balor. Like you have to go through Dom to get to Finn if you're Priest. Well, then we know good and well he's going to get through Dom, and didn't that make Dom look bad? Because Dom's actually been pretty good lately. He held together the Judgment Day for a while there were some injuries and other things. So I think at some point Dom, I don't know if he'll be the leader of Judgment Day, but he could, and that would be interesting. But we got to get to Finn and Priest, and if that means we got to get through Priest and Dom first, let's get it done. Battle of the Monsters. Okay. It's because you got nothing better for either one of them to do. I don't know. For some reason, you don't want to push Strowman anymore as a title contender. And for some reason, you scrapped the idea of putting Bronson Reed. I think it was because he got sick. How dare he get COVID and mess up your plans? Uh, Having Ludwig Kaiser in the middle of Gunther and Zayn, I like it. Sami Zayn was the one that ended the streak and took the Intercontinental title from Gunther. He's probably not going to take the world title, even though that would be interesting. Sami Zayn walks away with the belt over Gunther again. Gunther could throw a heck of a tirade. That could really be something. Um, it's pretty much Raw. SmackDown, you had Andrade narrowly beat him, Carmelo Hayes. You know him. Which another personal Hayes, Andrade is a top contender talent wise, and they've just never figured out how to use him. AEW didn't know how to use him. Now WWE is doing this second time and don't know how to use him. He's a top contender. He can go with anybody on the roster. He's top contender. Um, but so he beat Hayes, and then that gave him a match against LA Knight because LA Knight needed a contender, and of course LA Knight wins. This was a really good match. It opened up SmackDown. It was probably one of my favorite matches of the night because, well, we'll get to the rest. I'll be honest, because most of the rest of them were not great. I'm not going to talk about the next one. So on the Georgia Tech show last week, we talked about how Roman took a picture with Brent Key from Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech, and me and John, the co-host of that show, was trying to figure out why he was in town. Well, we found out because Cody and Roman filmed a segment where they had a powwow on the Georgia Tech field. Basically, it's their way of saying we can agree to disagree, and when this is over, we're still going to fight for that belt. But you know, let's take out the bloodline. And Roman Roman having a fun argument that he says, "You see this? You see where we're at right now?" Cody looks around. He said, "Yeah." He said, "This is where I played. This is my blood, my sweat, my tears are on this ground, which makes this my field, my stadium. You're in my house." Cody says, "Fair point." I'm paraphrasing. He says, "Fair point, fair point." Um, if you go down the road, we get to center stage, and you mentioned a couple other places too. And he said, especially in this area too, is where the Rhodes family has bled, they've sweated, they've cried all over. So he says, "You're in my town. So this may be your turf, your stadium, but you're in my town." To which Roman acknowledged that as well and said, "Fair point." So they're going to agree to disagree and they're going to try to take out the bloodline. Here's what I think is going to happen with the bloodline. You're going to see Solo uh, come down a little bit. Jacob Fatu is going to elevate because he by far is the star of them. Now, Solo does a great job. He's just not getting over fast enough as the leader. So I see him doing something different with it. Plus, Roman versus Jacob Fatu could be, you could make it 30, 40, 50 minutes to an hour. Nobody's going to get up. Everybody's going to watch every minute of that. It's going to be insane. But the Cody Roman segment, thumbs up. Enjoyed it. Um, Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax versus Bayley and Naomi with the um with stipulation that if Bayley or Naomi made the pinfall, that they become the number one contender for Nia's title, or if Tiffany and Nia win, whoever the pinfall or submission goes against, either Bayley or Naomi, are never allowed back on SmackDown. I could figure out a lot of ways this could play out. I'd forgotten how easy it was to do what they did. And that was to have Bayley and Naomi both pin Nia Jax. And now they are both number one contenders. We are going to get a triple threat. That's what we're going to have. It just makes the most sense. You can't banish either one of these to Raw forever. Well, to not SmackDown. I guess they could technically go to NXT for a while too, but Bayley's probably not going back there. Naomi's not going there. So they'd be stuck on Raw till they quit. Unless one of them's about to retire, and I doubt it. It just makes better sense. And then Kevin Owens and DIY taking on the Bloodline. DIY got hurt initially, so then the Street Profits stepped in, and it was a good match. The six of them were really going, and then when it just become chaos in the end, Cody come down, DIY come down, and look for War Games to be at Survivor Series in November. That's what I think. October pay-per-view is Bad Blood here in Atlanta. You're gonna get Hell in a Cell. You're gonna get War Games. You're gonna get War Games. It's gonna be Bloodline versus Roman's team or Cody's team or whatever. That was that's WWE for this week. Let's see. Let's go to AEW Dynamite. Things I like going on there. The Mox Claudio Shafir group. I want to see where this goes, but I really like that. They took out Private Party and Commander. And then Darby came out as well. Darby and Mox, which is happening tonight, should be a great match to be the number one contender. I hate that Darby's going to lose it because Moxley, Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, and him being the one to send Danielson home is more than likely the best scenario in this one. I'm sure Bryan Danielson got a chance to pick who's probably going to retire him because he needs neck surgery sooner rather than later for a lot of reasons. I bet Mox was towards top of the list. I definitely think he was. But to see where that's going, that should be fun. Um, any Ricochet match is good, but Ricochet Mordos was solid. The Hangman Shivani Jeff Jarrett thing. Jeff Jarrett, you get the last Outlaw and Jeff Jarrett versus the Hangman Adam Page. This is interesting because Hangman needs some solid victories, but if Jarrett stole a few from him here and there, I think that would be a little humbling and a little interesting. Like it breathes some life into Hangman because he's in such a weird place because he basically walked the plank with as far out on the limb as they got with the cage match between him and Swerve. Um, they just got into all kinds of sorts of weird in that one. but he needs just a good, solid win with like no real blood. They're going to do a lumberjack strap match, but Jeff Jarrett getting a good run here, he absolutely deserves it. And then Osprey Fletcher, uh, Takeshita getting the win over the Young Bucks and Okada. Who had the Callis family as being the one to take on the Young Bucks and Okada and actually beat them? I know we're getting Takeshita versus Okada and we're getting Osprey Fletcher versus Young Bucks for belts, but that's six people that you should be paying your good hard-earned money to see. Absolutely so. We'll go to Rampage. Mark Briscoe, Brian Keith was actually pretty solid until Jericho, Orange Cassidy, and Big Bill showed up, kind of ruined the moment, and Kyle O'Reilly. But it's because the six of them are all going to fight soon. Mark Briscoe is still very underrated, but Brian Keith was giving it to him. Yuta versus Butcher. Yuta's he's okay. He's kind of lost right now. He kind of snaps in and out of things. I get what they're doing, but he's borderline Sting territory, and just he's kind of a man without a country. Just and I'm a big Butcher fan, and that dude is a heck of a hand in the ring. Um, Harley Cameron and Hikaru Shida had a really, really good match. Shida, of course, won. Saraya got all upset about it. Jamie Hayter come down as well. So now we're gonna get Saraya versus Hayter in a Saraya rules match, which is basically Saraya can do what she wants. Jamie Hayter cannot. Somehow Jamie Hayter's still gonna win this, but I man, what happened? Because Saraya and Jamie Hayter should actually team up. They should they should have Hayter and Saraya and Harley as a trio. Good luck anybody else. That one is going to be something else. Um, Roddy and Mortos with Taven and Bennett made no sense why there's a tag team that accompanies two random people. Took on Joe Keys and Marcus Mather. We know Roddy Mortos is going to win that. And Nick Wayne won a fatal four-way between him, Leo Rush, Kip Sabian, and Rocky Romero. We know Kip Sabian was going to get screwed somehow. He had the victory. Nick Wayne threw him out of the way and took the win. But Leo Rush and Romero, that was as good a four person match as I've seen in a while, with four people who absolutely fed off each other. And for Nick Wayne to kind of pull the Christian move and win, right on par. We'll go to Collision. That was the bunkhouse brawl match between the veteran of the bunkhouse brawl, Dustin Rhodes with his partner Sammy Guevara. They're the Ring of Honor tag champs. They took on OGK. Yep, that team that accompanied two random people the other day. This is really good. I don't need the weapons. I understand why they did it for this sake, but Dustin and Sammy versus OGK is a really, really good tag match. And OGK are completely underrated and underused as one of the more established tag teams they would be in TNA if they were there in AEW. It makes no sense why. I mean, at least they got the Ring of Honor titles, but why are they not in contention for the other ones? AEW, same offer I put to TNA. Put me on the writing staff for a couple months. If it doesn't vastly improve, hey, I'll come back home to Atlanta. That's how simple that is. Um, Mariah versus Lady Frost, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Lady Frost, one of my favorite female performers because she rarely has bad moments or matches. I shouldn't have bad matches. She rarely, and Mariah really had to dig deep because Lady Frost was really pushing her. This one was super fast, but Mariah, of course, retains in that one. Darby took on Uno, who had Reynolds down there with him. Not sure where Silver was, but of course, Darby wins. He needs to win going into the fight with Mox. But he angered Uno, and we got to see evil Uno and not evil Uno. So I'd like to see a heel turn by Uno, Reynolds, and Silver. I would really like them to be a heel turn. I miss the dark order. Um, and that was pretty much the end of that. AEW gearing up. They've got a show. They got a pay-per-view in a couple, 3 weeks. I think they are the week after. I'll have to look. They are the week after. Well, because they're doing the thing now, and then like 2 weeks from now is the big show, I think. Which no, I think it's 3 weeks. Yeah, that makes sense. Because Grand Slams now, I think they give it 3 weeks, and then they're gonna be whatever the next pay-per-view is. We'll look at it. And then finally, wow, BK Rhythm and Gigi Gianni once again took on the Dojo Defenders. The Dojo Defenders did win. At least this time they didn't break the jaw of BK Rhythm. And her and Gigi are actually a really good team. Dojo Defenders are a pretty good team. As far as tag team female division, WoW has a pretty good one. But this was a good match. And like I said, at least BK Rhythm got to keep her jaw intact this time. Really like her in-ring work. The Class Master took on Roxy Fierce, which is Foxy Fierce's little sister. Class Master wins that when Samantha Smart helps her. But if we get the tag team of Roxy and Foxy a lot, that's a fun team. That's a really fun team. They both know how to work. And it's weird the Class Master is suddenly by herself with Samantha Smart when she used to have I don't know, 3 or 4 different people in that little group. We also got to see Sylvia Sanchez from Los Banditas against Tormenta. Tormenta, of course, won that one, but Sylvia Sanchez, as a singles wrestler, she's got a singles run in her for sure. And then Miami Sweet Heat with Lana Star took on or was going to defend their belts against it was American Girls. It's Americana and Santana Garrett. But the mother truckers come out and boo-hooed. Oh, let us have the match instead. Let us take this place and we'll make it right. And this was the double or nothing to make up for the hotel bill. It's about 7 levels of why can't we just have a good match? Because Miami Sweet Heat, even though they had a little help, ends up winning this one as well. So as far as the bill that the mother truckers couldn't pay, and now it's double. So is this like the 1, 2, 3 kid? We just gonna keep upping it until he finally wins it? Just keep upping. I mean, at least he kept winning it every time. But I mean, just this makes no sense. I would have very much rather saw American Girls versus Miami Sweet Heat. And then I got to bring up the fact that I know there's a logjam at the top. Penelope Pink and Princess Aussie and Tormenta. You can throw Beast in there, who's the champ. Abilene Maverick. Those are all top contenders. Uh, Jesse Jones, Fury, um, both members of the American Girls. There's Santana Garrett should be in the title in the top title picture at any point. So should Americana. She should at least have a good solid shot there. I mean, there's 3 or 4 people that could be up there instead of the same 3 or 4 battling over the top belt. Just I don't know. Just my observations for Nigel Zane and David. Just my 2 cents. Same offer. If you want to put me on the writing staff for a minute, um, I think I could vastly improve the ratings and a lot of other stuff. I think you guys would like some of the ideas that I have. And like I said, I work a lot cheaper than probably most people you have. David McLean. Sorry, David, I blanked on your last name. But man, that's pretty much going to do it. This is probably another hour-long show. There's just so much to get into. We will obviously talk more UFC and a little bit of PFL next time around. It will be time to talk Bad Blood and to preview that. And we'll see what AEW is up to and how TNA came out of Victory Road. But other than that, this has been another great edition of Strong Style. I'm your host, Jeremy the Impact York. We will see you guys next week. Deuces, gooses. Go watch wrestling. Go watch fighting.